this place. Don't know how to stop when I'm feeling this way. So I'm taking 6 shots till I'm feeling okay. I think I'm going crazy. Don't think I'll get home safe. So I'm taking 6 shots all straight to the face. I'm taking 6 shots, are you coming with me? Sometimes you need to let loose, grab juice, get goose, tattoos, taboos, get screwed. Loosen up, buttercup, all those hate comments will never make you feel enough. We're all adequate graduates, hearts full of calluses, but we know calculus. Damn, ain't that fabulous? Can't wait to apply all those mathematicus. But we can't get a job that pays us enough. I'm about to pop off. Fuck you, you're lost. We all know that we never really want a boss. So I'ma do what I want to. Something I can't undo. Yeah, I'ma do what I want to. Something I can't undo. I'm taking 6 shots, yeah, straight to the face. And I wanna get lost, I'm sick of this place. Don't know how to stop when I'm feeling this way. So I'm taking 6 shots till I'm feeling okay. I think I'm going crazy. Don't think I'll get home safe. So I'm taking 6 shots all straight to the face. I'm taking 6 shots, are you coming with me? I'm taking 6 shots, yeah, straight to the face. And I wanna get lost, I'm sick of this place. Don't know how to stop when I'm feeling this way. So I'm taking 6 shots till I'm feeling okay. I think I'm going crazy. Don't think I'll get home safe. So I'm taking 6 shots all straight to the face. I'm taking 6 shots, are you coming with me?
Hey, it's Friday night and it's all in. I'm back on the sauce, so be prepared for chaos. Batten down the hatches, lock up your daughters, we're coming in. Ed, how you doing,
yeah,
mate?
no, I haven't. I've had 2 culinary disasters this evening, so I haven't eaten, and I've had 2 gin and tonics and a load of wine. So we're gonna be out drunking ourselves later on, because, to be honest, the state of the world, if it's not driving you to drink, then I just don't know how you do it, frankly. And John, before we get started, have you come up with a nifty solution for your lack of sponsors? Have you got the university? Have you being sponsored by a university now?
No, I've just put on an old hockey shirt because I thought I'll try and inject some colour into my attire, because it's you know, I knew you would turn up with something bright on, and you haven't let me down. You have not let me down. So there we go.
I haven't let you down.
That's what I'm saying. You haven't let me down. So, good evening to the troll room. We have Nectaridus, we have Ray, we have Espresso Mechanic TV, we have Dreadeye and Julie, we have David Martin. New name? Pardon me?
I like new names. Hello, David.
And Yorkshire Lad. Hey, up. I think we had Yorkshire Lad once before.
Yorkshire Lad, I recognise that name. Welcome back.
Yeah, but good. It's welcome to see you. Welcome to see you? That's not even English. Good grief.
Well, you're not English, you're Scottish, so you're just allowed to say whatever the hell you want.
I doff my cap to you. I've not had a drink for 3 weeks, so I'll probably go straight to my head. I think you've done
really well. I mean, by as standard, I don't drink for at least 2 evenings a week, but the rest of the evenings it's a struggle to control the alcohol intake, just because the world is so crazy.
Oh, I know.
It gets more crazy. I'd say it every single week, and we've done a show almost every week of 2025, apart from one when I was away.
Yeah.
And each week it just gets more mental.
And then Trump goes and puts tariffs on the world. On the actual world.
Yeah, I mean, this one, he's basically he's gone back in history to look at a time when America was at its peak before the First and Second World War, and they were developing their industry, and they had loads of manufacturing, and he's sort of gone back there and said, "Oh, what were they doing back then? Lots of tariffs." But the other thing that I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
It's either
because we don't. Sorry to interrupt, but we don't even know what the full effect of this thing is going to be, because
Yeah.
economic changes are a bit like glaciers.
Well, yeah. It's either genius or complete and utter madness. Right? And that's probably what you get from Trump most of the time. You know, he either goes one way or the other. And it depends how it pans out. But you know what it's really done? And one thing I really applaud him for, it's really stuck it to Starmer, right? Because he's put a 20% tariff on Europe and a 10% tariff on the UK. And that's just, it's driving a wedge between Britain and the UK and the EU straight away. You know?
There's already a wedge. There's always.
Oh, yes. I know.
When we were in the EU, there's always a wedge.
Yeah, but it's driving a bigger wedge because there's no way that Starmer can really. He can't say, well, yeah, okay, let's pay more money because we want to talk to Europe. And the thing is, this is going to really hurt the EU because who's the biggest supplier in the world? China, right? What's Trump done? He's put something like 34% on China. And China's going to go, well, you know, we don't want to not supply people with stuff. So they're going to shift all their stuff into the EU. And then what exactly is von der Leyen and the rest of the EU countries, or the EU bureaucrats going to do? Are they going to try and tariff China? You know, to stop it. I mean, because they're going to flood the market. That's the thing, they'll flood the market. This is nuts.
It's completely crazy. But it's also, I mean, in terms of the global south, it's kind of America's staking out a position of, because if you notice, there's a significant difference in the tariffs that they've imposed on South America versus Africa.
Yeah. And
you can see that they're essentially, and it's also the whole Greenland thing. Seems to want to create a sphere of influence. And it's, I mean, the thing that not a lot of people that I've listened to are talking about is the fact that this is the nail in the coffin of globalization.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say, Ed, because you can't call Trump a globalist with what's going on right now, because you can't be a globalist and have a trade war. Not globally.
No, and I mean, I personally, I find it fascinating because when I was studying international relations at university back in the 90s, we were writing essays and we were taught, everyone was talking about globalization and is it going to be a good thing or is it going to be a bad thing? And it's lasted a little bit over 30 years. Yeah. I mean, these discussions were happening in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And that aspect of it is going to take time to filter through. Now, I can see benefits because this whole America rules the world thing hasn't worked out very well for an awful lot of people, including the Americans. The issue that they've got is that America doesn't have an industrial base. They have cities like Detroit that were once manufacturing titans and producing. I mean, Detroit was one of the reasons that the Americans were able to supply the tanks and the jeeps and all of these other things that helped win World War II. All of that stuff was outsourced to China years ago.
Yeah, well,
I mean, China is now the manufacturing colossus, and the United States is not quite a rust belt, but
yeah, I mean, America still builds a lot of its own cars, right? And you know, don't get me wrong, they don't build 100% of their own cars because a lot of the sub parts are contracted out to either Canada or Mexico. But America still has a degree of an industrial base. So it's maybe
also
something they can
UK.
build. Maybe something they could build on. But you know, it's going to hurt. This is going to hurt people, regardless of how you look at it. If this follows through and it keeps going, you know, it's going to hurt people.
If you look at the way that, I mean, I realize that Russia is a different example because of the size of the country and the amount of resources that they've got. Well, but it's also
isn't it? Because you got to remember, although Russia's land area is absolutely massive, it's not a huge economy. It's not, you know, it doesn't have a lot of people.
But it's not about size. I'm not talking about the size of the economy. What I'm talking about is how every single economist and his mum expected the 23,000 sanctions that they've imposed on Russia to bring the economy down. And it's basically, we've now got that Russian envoy. Oh, what's his name? Dmitriev? Is that the guy? I think because he's flown. There's a Russian, and he's not really a diplomat. He's more a business sort of person. But he's been having talks in America.
Okay.
And it's clear that the Russian business, they don't actually want the sanctions to be lifted. This is the thing, because the sanctions, because of the way that the Russian government dealt with the sanctions and the ability that Russia has to be able to produce its own stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also governance. The problem that the West has got is governance. It's not a lack of resources. It's not a lack of motivated people or money or anything else. It's governance. And we have the EU, we have the UK government, formerly the American government, what Trump is trying to undo a bit, it seems, with all these agencies and everything else, and the Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah.
And the problem that the UK and Europe have got is government. It's all these stupid net zero rules. And I mean, the thing is that it's a bit rich for the EU to start getting all butthurt about sanctions with the Americans. When you actually look at the reciprocal, the sanctions that the EU have imposed, I mean, they put 50% on bourbon, just as one example.
Yeah,
and I think not new. This is
and that's not a new one. That's been around for a while, because bourbon, as you know, is dear to my heart.
Are you absolutely sure that as a Scottish person you should be saying that live on air?
I'm not.
You're not going to get hunted down by.
But I'm not a great fan of whiskey.
Producers.
I'm not a great fan of whiskey. But I like Jack Daniels, and that's not bourbon. I know. Before you jump in there,
I have to do a shout out because I'm not a massive whiskey drinker. And then at New Year, Journeying John, I spent New Year's Eve with Journeying John and Nectaridas, and Journeying John came around with a bottle of Welsh whiskey, and it was absolutely gorgeous. I was so impressed.
It just sounds like an anathema to everything that anybody should stand for.
I didn't even know the Welsh made whiskey
until
he pulled this bloody bottle out, and I was even more surprised because I liked it more than, dare I say it, most Scotch whiskey that I've drunk.
Yeah, well, knock yourself out. As I said, I'm not a great. What do you mean? Are we live, Hatchie? Hold on, Hatchie's asking, "Are we live?" Well, I hope so. Hatchie. You're talking to us. The picture shows that we're live. Yeah, I think we're live, Hatchie. You're on the vertical stream, Hatchie. There is a horizontal stream as well, where most of the chat occurs. But hey, you're welcome to hang out wherever you want, because at this point in time, we'll take viewers wherever we can, because 2 weeks ago we had 4,000 viewers on All In, and last night on Rabbit Hole we had 54.
And that was probably my fault for going off on a rant about a certain Middle Eastern country that I'm not going to bloody mention.
Yeah, okay. Right. Okay, moving on. The tariffs, it's nuts, and it's going to be great fun watching all this pan out, because they don't have a clue what they're doing. They really don't. Nobody has a clue what they're doing.
No. And the thing is that it's exposing it. They're all scrambling. It's something that Trump has actually done since he was inaugurated. They've kept the narrative moving so fast that particularly the mainstream media, they don't have time to get comfortable with anything. And the only thing that they're left to do is pile the hate on Trump and Musk and just write their usual nonsense.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Trump I'm not saying he's playing 5D chess or anything on a kind of a level with Putin, but he's definitely moving. I think he's just trying to keep them all off balance. Now, whether that's because he has a really good plan and it's going to work really well and it's actually going to be good in the long run, that's another matter entirely. But he certainly learned something since his last stint in office. I mean, I don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan. I don't particularly like his style. I don't particularly like his personality. But at the same time, you have to respect his force of belief in what he's doing. And if you compare that to a wet dish rag like the dear leader that we've got, I mean, he's got no personality, he's got no charisma, he's got no vision. He doesn't really seem to care. I mean, it was a tweet I made earlier on today because I recently started following the Japanese ambassador to London. And if you're not following him, he's just really nice. It's like the nice side of Twitter. And he does more to promote the UK than bloody Starmer.
There's a nice side to Twitter.
It's very small.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting fed up with people. They're just nuts. People are, you know what?
Well, this is why the Suzuki-san, who is the Japanese ambassador to Twitter, is my new favorite person on there, because it's just, and it's really like nice. And he takes Paddington Bear to Japan with his wife, and his wife even remembers to pack a jar of marmalade so Paddington can have his marmalade sandwiches. I mean, this is England, this is Britain, this is why the hell is the Prime Minister trying to start World War III? And the Japanese ambassadors in Kew Gardens looking at all the pretty blossoms of spring. I mean, we live in such a fucking crazy world. Oh, shit. Oops.
We do. And I'm not quite sure what Starmer's game is, because he has been very, very belligerent. I mean, really belligerent since he came into power. And, you know, he seems to have come in without any real direction. You know, they don't seem to have had a plan. I mean, they knew they were going to win, but they don't seem to have had a proper plan, because all he's done is knee-jerk to things that have occurred. He hasn't actually done anything that you would think would be, you know, they've been out of power for 13 years. You think that we really have plenty of time to think, well, the Tories have done this and this and this, so we'll go and do these things differently. But no, he's just not doing that, is he?
Well, Starmer's raison d'etre was to get rid of Corbyn.
Yeah.
Because if you wanted to talk about, I mean, and Jeremy Corbyn, I don't agree with him about everything, but he would have made a much better Prime Minister than Keir Starmer, just purely on the basis of having some principles and being prepared to stand up for the country. And the thing with these politicians is you don't have to like them. You don't have to agree with them. If you respect them, then that's actually enough, because you can't, as a politician, you can't please all of the people all the time. And the thing with Starmer is this, particularly the stuff he posts on X, it's all just lies. I mean, he's literally claiming to have done things that they haven't done.
Yeah.
In fact, they've actually done the opposite.
Yep.
And what you were saying about him not having any ideas, he's a continuation of the previous system. He's just a uniparty deep state drone that doesn't care. The thing is, he doesn't care about the country. He doesn't care about the people, and he doesn't give a shit how unpopular he is. He's got a job to, I think one of his missions is to try and start war with Russia, because otherwise the UK is in a deep economic hole because of all the money we lent to Ukraine. And his other mission is to sneakily get us back into the EU. Because, and that's a whole other debate, because the ruling class, they didn't think they were going to lose. That's the thing. And they've hated the people who had the audacity to vote for Brexit, which is why we're getting raped by energy companies and water companies and supermarkets. And they've basically been punishing the population for having the audacity to vote against them.
This is the thing that gets me. The wholesale price of gas is lower just now than it was in 2007. And yet we're paying twice as much on our personal gas bills. How does that work out?
That's because we have to fund all of the net zero nonsense.
Exactly.
And if you look at gas...
Actually, speaking about that, there is a rumour going around on the what would you call it, the terraced house of power that is Downing Street, there is a rumour going around that there's going to be a cabinet reshuffle and that Ed Miliband and net zero agenda might be getting canned. If so, that would be sensible.
I was hearing that 2 or 3 weeks ago. I wish, because every single day that Ed Miliband is in power, the UK is a bit worse off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the fact of the matter is that the people, but it's also the Climate Change Committee, another one of these bloody quangos that we have to deal with. And it's insane because none of them are economists. They don't understand the economy. We've got enough gas to power most of Europe for a very long time. And it's split between the English and the Dutch. And this is a problem because I'm half and half. And I have 2 passports. And I hate both governments equally.
Yeah.
Because the combined, if you look at this, because there's a massive gas field pretty much just underneath the English Channel, in between Britain and Holland, where the North Sea is, where all the the English Channel, all the ships and stuff, and it's enormous. And both countries could tap it and start supplying gas to Europe.
Yeah.
But because of all the net zero nonsense, they're all saying, no, we're not going to touch it.
Yeah,
and
I know.
There's this whole thing about not granting new oil and gas licenses for the North Sea. I mean, it's democide in the long run.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Good evening, Rabbit Leader 2030. Good to see you. So, the Rabbit Leader.
Anyway, I should probably move on with the slides.
Yeah. Let's
Tariffs.
move on now. Okay, right. I was talking about ranting. So it seems to have caught up with our latest religious devotee, the one that switched to Christianity, because he has been charged with that word and sexual assault, 1 count of the bad one, 1 count of a slightly less bad one, and 1 count of oral, really bad one, and 2 counts of sexual assault, following I think it was a couple of years. When was it? There was an expose done by the Guardian or something on him a couple of years ago, and women came forward saying that he had done this to them and done that to them, and so he's been charged with this. But these events occurred in 1999, and between 1999 and 2005. Now, I don't know about you, right? But I think you're really going to have to start putting some kind of time bar on these kind of things because, and you can shout me down if you want, but when people dwell on something and think about it, their memories change, right? They don't remember things properly and they convince themselves that things happen that never happened. And the longer that goes on, the easier it is for them to do it. And I don't think it's fair that people should be charged with offences against the person that nobody has complained about for 20 years.
I agree. I mean, because there's a legal case, we kind of do have to be a little bit careful about what we're saying. But I agree with you that if someone has injured you to the extent that you feel properly injured by it, and you don't go to the police for 20 years, then that to me suggests some kind of setup. It's like it was the same, and I hesitate. It was the first example that comes to mind, but I hesitate to compare them because I don't particularly like Brand, but it was kind of like the allegations that they made against Julian Assange in Sweden, where suddenly these women came forward. Now, I don't particularly like.
I think that was a setup, though. I think that was a setup.
Oh yeah, but with this, the thing is, I've got two theories about the whole Brand thing. Number one, he was part of the system, realized what he's done, converted to Christianity, and his outlook is genuine, and they've realized that he's gone off the reservation and they need to try and control him and do something about him because he's too popular.
Yeah, possible.
Which would be for the people who are Russell Brand fans. And then the other thing is that he's basically part of the system and they're just trying to sheep dip him and burnish his credibility by having a court case because that might convince people that he's more genuine than he is. And I'm undecided on that one. I mean, people are allowed to change, and people are allowed to make mistakes, and people are allowed to get involved with things that they later realize, oh shit, this is a really bad idea. I need to get out of this.
Yeah.
But I just don't trust him. I'm not. I don't quite know what it is.
I don't trust him.
And he was one of those people that didn't seem to ever get cancelled during COVID. And if you weren't cancelled during COVID, then I have trust issues.
Yeah, agreed. So I was on duty one night in Pollockshaw's police station. I was a sergeant in charge of the station that night, and we were due to finish at 11 o'clock. And I'm sitting in my office, and one of the cops comes in, or the bar officer comes in. That's the cop that works at the counter. And he comes in, he's going, Sarge, there's because there's a guy here reporting a serious sexual assault. And I'm going, yeah, okay. And I'm looking at my watch thinking, it's 11:15. So anyway, I goes out, and there's a guy in a wheelchair, right, with a younger guy with him. And I'm like, well, what's happened then? And the younger guy goes, well, this gentleman here has got something to say. And I goes, okay, come through. So we took him through to the interview room, and I'm sitting there, and I goes, okay, what's the score? What's happened? And the old guy in the wheelchair goes, well, I raped Jimmy here 43 years ago. And I'm like, why? Oh my God, what have I done to deserve this? So yeah, there should be a time bar on these cases.
The thing is that it could be that person suddenly.
Well, they were full of remorse.
What he'd done, and
he was getting near the end.
And the thing is that I'm not necessarily suggesting that person deserves to be arrested for a crime that happened so long ago, because I don't. But at the same time, if I don't know, it's kind of.
No, automatic.
It's nuts, but it's not the sort of thing that you need as a police officer at 11:30 at night. It's just like, can't someone else deal with this? Why does the universe have to play these games with me?
I know.
I've had that feeling all freaking day.
Oh, it's absolutely crazy. Mate.
Right, let's move on.
Here all night. I played that one that I said last night about it must smell really bad when you wipe your bottom. The guy with the nose on his arm. And oh my God, my wife was in stitches. So I was quite gratified with that, because it takes a lot to make her laugh. Right.
Happy wife, happy life, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there you go. 17-year-old student was stabbed in the heart at a Texas high school track meet and died in his twin brother's arms. 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, who was also at the track meet and running or whatever it was meant to be doing, has been charged with first-degree murder. The father said his son, Austin Metcalf, was killed after another student got upset. Yeah, now, first of all, who takes a knife to a running game? Right? Apart from that, somebody now apparently started some kind of GoFundMe or something like that in a private group on Facebook to fund this guy's defence.
This is just a perfect example of. It really does. I mean, I saw this story, and I had to read it twice, and then I had to read it a third time, and then I just had to do I think it was a triple facepalm in the end, because it's just a perfect example of how a section of this planet seems to have lost their freaking minds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Particularly when it comes to the whole DEI thing. And again, we have to be careful about what we say, because that's just the world we bloody live in. But I mean, it's nuts. I just,
That's nuts.
and the fact that the people are going along with it. I mean,
Right, moving on. This was in the running for the thumbnail earlier on this week, but events have overtaken it. But what were Reform thinking when they came up with a slogan? I mean, really, what were they thinking? They just left it wide open, didn't they?
I'm not sure they are thinking.
Yeah.
Well, because, I mean, if you look just before we came on, and it's probably not included in the slides, but Rupert Lowe has had the police around to confiscate, because, I mean, I think he's a farmer or something, so he has a firearms collection of, I'm sure, entirely legal firearms. And they're making a big bloody hoo-ha about it.
What? Why are the police confiscating them?
I don't know. I've just seen a statement from Rupert Lowe commenting on it, and it just looks like it's part of the witch hunt, because he is too popular, and he's talking. His message is he set up an inquiry for a thing that we're not going to mention, because we're trying not to get into too much trouble with YouTube. £500,000 so far.
Yeah. Oh, it's having a small seizure. Don't be alarmed, people. This happens occasionally. He may turn pure.
Sorry, I've still got a cough.
But it'll be all right.
Oh no, I'm fine. I just you're lucky I mute myself.
Yeah, I Britmate, I think, surmises that quite succinctly with political dark arts. I think that's about right. Yeah. Right, moving on.
Not even dark. The thing is, let me just take exception to that. It's dark, but there's nothing artistic about it at all. I mean, it's so blatant. I can't believe that they're actually, and ultimately I can, because of the control they've got over the mainstream media. Because if you don't watch the news and you get all of your information from Twitter, which is arguably a more reliable source of information, then you most likely know who Rupert Lowe is, and you either agree with him or disagree with him. But an awful lot of people out there don't even really know who he is.
Yeah. So what's your booster tonight? Because what's his name? Britmate's asking if you've had your booster read. So yeah, you'll be on a booster tonight. I'm on Badger. Badger's Thirsty Ferret. That's my booster.
I'm on my favourite Jam Shed.
Oh, you're on a Jam Shed? I love a Jam Shed.
I've been drinking far too much of it as well. The bottle's getting dangerously low.
Is that the dark one? The red?
I don't drink. I don't drink white wine.
I may live in Brighton, but I'm not gay. That's effectively what you were saying there, wasn't it?
It was a subtle hint without actually saying it. And every time I mention that, I end up saying, I just end up dropping myself in it. So I'm just going to shut up.
Yeah, best to, because I'll clip it and play
MPs.
it. Yeah.
This is... This is
nuts.
It is completely nuts. Not just from the perspective of you're a tiny ass little country with a giant neighbor. Why are you trying to piss them off? But it's also so nasty. This is something that I've struggled with right since 2022. The degree of petty spitefulness with which Russians are being treated. They're not allowed to participate in the Olympics. Meanwhile, other countries who are doing arguably worse things are.
Yep.
And things like this, and these are the Baltic states. Why? What does Estonia think it's achieving by pissing Russia off?
The thing is, there'd be like 25% of Estonia's population is going to be ethnically Russian.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is great. This is the Donbass all over again. This is why they ended up in there. This is nuts. You start discriminating against Russians, you're asking to get Russia in, to put it right.
The thing is, and you and I would agree that it's nuts, but if you happen to be one of these psychotic, crazy people that wants to start a war with Russia, then with Estonia being a member of NATO, Estonia pisses off the Russian minority and starts oppressing them and denying them equal rights. Meanwhile, they're all talking about DEI, no doubt.
Meanwhile,
and then Russia invades.
Stop.
5.
For some reason, you can't hear the siren when it goes off, but
sorry.
Our friend Nectaridas has just dropped us a little present. Thank you very much, mate. We appreciate it. Any other donations, you know where to go, or you should do, because it's right above us. Ko-fi.com/Sergeant Grumpy. Or you can join the channel, or you can do a super chat or anything like that. But yeah, we appreciate it because, let's face it, times are hard. And they're getting harder.
And I apologise for talking over it. If I could actually hear it, then I might get a prompt.
Well, the problem is for you to hear it.
Producer.
Yeah, but for you to... Oh, if I had a producer, they could go, Ed, there's been a siren or something like that. Or they could, ping in you. In fact, the producer would be able to speak in your ear while you're still talking, without the audience hearing them.
You never know. We might get one day.
Yes, we've already spoken about the Japanese ambassador, Shalini, so you're too late. It's been done.
Yeah, no, sorry, Shalini. I was singing his praises. Good old Suzuki-san.
Yeah, right. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I don't know why Estonia would want us to do it, but it's the Chihuahuas, isn't it? They seem to have this massive chip on their shoulder. I don't know how they walk about. These guys must have chips the size of, like a small building on their shoulder.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I genuinely don't know what they're trying to achieve, because if you were an Estonian leader or a Latvian or whatever, you would think, we have this giant country next to us. The best thing that we can do is be friends with them. And I mean, there's no reason for them not to be friends, apart from people like Kaja Kallas.
I think the problem is, right, they fucking hated the Soviet Union, right? I think, and a lot of people suffered under the Soviet Union. A lot of people benefited in some, when I say benefited, I use the term loosely, but a lot of people suffered under the Soviet Union. But Russia's not the Soviet Union.
No, Russia's not the Soviet Union, but I think it's not just the Soviet Union. I think that the issues that the Baltic countries have got ethnically and culturally with Russia generally, I can't claim to understand them, is what I'm saying. And there's probably more stuff going on there. But in a world, one has to be realistic. If you're a tiny ass little country situated right next to a giant, massive country that stretches across 11 time zones and has already beat like they've been invaded twice and kicked their asses both times, and pretty much did all the heavy lifting in World War II. To then start pissing them off,
they did all the heavy lifting in World War II, mate.
Well,
they really did.
I mean, the thing is that there was a lot of finance and weaponry that flowed from the United States to the Soviet Union. So it wasn't, one has to put it into perspective, but compared to what most Western people think of as who won the Second World War, it was the Russians.
Yeah,
simple.
Going into Russia was Hitler's biggest mistake. Well, it was. I mean,
do we have a slide covering that story about Germany wanting to rearm? Oh my God! Let's move on.
I think we might have. Right, Western media. Russia is losing in Ukraine. Okay, that's fine. Russia is going to take over Europe. Well, what one is it then? What one is it? Yeah, I mean, what one is it? And Vladimir Putin is becoming desperate, and Putin is close to victory. Europe should be make your mind up. I mean, what one is it?
Exactly. This has been the whole problem with Western propaganda. And what blows my mind is that most people just follow along with it. The normies they'll read one article in the Telegraph and they'll think, oh, yeah. And then they'll read the other article in the Telegraph and they'll think, oh, yeah. And they never put the two together. They never think, hang on a minute, this doesn't make any bloody sense.
Cognitive dissonance.
It's crazy because, I mean, Putin's had a life-threatening disease for about 15 years.
Yeah, I know, and he's still walking around. How dare that guy? Is it not time for him to lie down in a box?
Exactly,
Anyway.
But it's just this PDS hysteria because we have
Yeah.
TDS,
Yep.
PDS,
Yep.
and EDS,
Yeah, we do.
or MDS, depending on which you prefer.
So speaking of the Telegraph, the this guy's come out with a cracker. So this is to explain Islamophobia. So horror of same-sex relationships did not exist in Islamic culture before the 19th century, says Oxford professor. British colonisers taught Muslims homophobia, and they favoured Islamic clerics who concurred with British anti-gay ideology. Well, thank you, Oxford. You really put a shine on things, haven't you?
The thing is that as soon as I hear the name Oxford, it instantly, most people would think Oxford University, centre of learning. With me, it automatically downgrades my opinion of whatever's being said.
Yeah.
Because Oxford University is not the bastion of learning that it likes to make out that it is. And there's a vast amount of the nefarious bad things that are happening in the world that actually trace their roots back to Oxford.
Yeah. Right.
And this one, I mean, there's so much.
They have their own agenda. You know what it is? It's the current narrative. The current government are going along with it. The current royal family are going along with it. Despite him supposed to be the leader of the Christian faith in this country, the leader of the Church of England, he's going along with the government's narrative, and it's wrong. You need to stop pandering to outside influences. You know, fix your own country first before you start, trying to integrate people that don't want to integrate. And that's the problem. If they don't want to integrate, that's fine. Let them live in their little enclaves. But don't let them integrate, and don't let them take over society, and don't let them change the way that the country is. That's my view.
Well, and to me, that's perfectly reasonable for a country to demand. It's like I like going diving in Egypt.
Yeah.
But when I go to Egypt, I'm respectful of local customs, and I don't go to Egyptians and start telling them they have to accept gay people or trans people or whatever.
Exactly.
And then they have their prayer and the kind of, what's it called, the call to prayer.
How do they get anything done? How do they get anything done 5 times a day?
The thing is that I do get that, and ultimately I think there has to be a certain amount of religious tolerance. But if you go to a different country, then you have to accept that country has its own culture.
Yeah. Well,
And the thing is that there's plenty. It's like if you look at some of the most anti-immigration people in the UK are actually like 2nd or 3rd generation immigrants.
You'll see, because they understand. They understand. They left to get away from that. And then because they don't want to see that being applied to our country, because they left to get away from it. I mean, it's like when I lived in Hong Kong, the Chinese get their grandparents out once a year, dust them off, change their clothing. I mean, really, they do that, But the whole family goes up and has a meal there at the crypt, and dust off the ancestors, see how they're getting on. I mean, it's creepy as hell, but that's the culture.
But I think if you look at Asian cultures, the Chinese, Africa to a large extent as well. I mean, the whole concept of when I went out last time, I went out to Zambia for my dad's funeral, and I was going out with a girl who'd had her kids taken into care. And I was trying to explain this to my stepmother. The whole notion to a Zambian of kids being taken into care is just, I mean, because when my
family would look after them.
Absolutely. It's like when my little brother, Michael, who, I mean, he passed away, but he was always a bit wayward, bless him. And he ended up getting a girl pregnant, and the girl had a baby. And my stepmother just pretty much took the kid. There was no discussion or anything. It's a completely different culture. And I think that's part of the problem that we've got in the West is we don't have enough respect for each other
Family,
generally.
yeah.
But that's also not. It's by design, because if you look at the last 50 years of what the system has been doing, and I say system, not government, but they've been chipping away at the foundational things that it's like the glue. They've been dissolving the glue that holds us all together.
Yep.
It's been deliberate, and it's happened all over Europe. So anyway, let's move on, or I'll start ranting again.
We're 47 minutes into this show. We're on slide 7 of 45.
Let's get our skates on.
Right. A woman says police overreacted. This is a cracker. A woman says police overreacted by trying to ban her from a park over allegations she was illegally foraging for mushrooms. Louise Gather said a police officer came to her home and attempted to issue her with a community resolution report after she visited Bradgate Park in Leicestershire in search of magpie ink cups, a rare kind of fungus. It follows a complaint by Bradgate's Park Trust, which runs the park, that Mrs. Gather picked mushrooms illegally because it is a designated site of special scientific interest. The 38-year-old insisted she'd not picked any mushrooms during her visit in November, and that Leicestershire police actions had been a bit excessive. And then it gets even better, because the police turned up and decided to issue a community resolution report, right, which is an informal agreement between a complainant and an alleged offender. Mrs. Gather was told she would not face prosecution or get a criminal record because they don't have any fucking evidence, right? If she stuck to its terms. These also included her agreeing not to take items from the park in future, although she said she didn't take any in the first place, right? And that she should look into what an SSSI is. However, the police subsequently called her up and said, yeah, we've rescinded that community resolution order because the officer that issued that had your husband sign it instead of you. So they didn't even follow their own procedure. What a bunch of fuckwits.
It's another.
What's the police doing? Why are the police going out and picking on people that may or may not have picked a mushroom? A fucking mushroom. This is nuts. What? This is not good use of resources.
Absolutely not. I mean, if you consider how much, I mean, because you're a former police officer.
Indeed I am.
Doesn't it seem like since they brought in all of these targets and numbers that the police have to hit, that they seem to go for the easy stuff. It's like they're constantly picking low-hanging fruit, and they're acting on complaints, because we've had that one story in the week about the police turning up for conversations that were had on WhatsApp. I mean, the police in the UK seem to spend more time policing speech and people picking mushrooms than they do people stabbing each other. I mean,
well, yeah, they do.
It's really gone.
They're responding to society, and society needs to tell the police that that's not what they want to do. The problem is you've got too many freaking lefty liberals going, oh, I was offended by what was said on Facebook. It offended me. You're tough shit. Grow a set. Get over it. Move on. You know?
Yeah, just absolutely. Speaking of which, go on. The next slide. We'll literally be here at 2:00 in the morning.
Well, yeah. To those being directed to conduct hostile acts. Now, I don't quite understand this. This is a Home Office. To those being directed to conduct hostile acts on UK soil by the Russian state. So are they saying there are Russian agents provocateurs in the UK being directed by the Russian state to commit hostile acts? Well, you don't fucking put an advert on Twitter saying, don't be bad or we'll lock you up. You seek them down and you eliminate them, right? This is nuts. What kind of world are we living in that the Home Office is asking spies to not be spies?
I actually saw this one and I thought it was more. So I agree with you in principle on what you said, but I saw this one in a bit more of a sinister.
Well, yeah, there is that as well. Yeah,
this is because they love their open-ended kind of catch-all statements where nothing is defined, but it's propaganda. The problem that we've got is that Europe and the UK and the West generally, the only thing that they've got that they're doing better than the Russians is the propaganda. It's literally the only thing that the Ukraine has been better at than the Russians in this whole war is propaganda and controlling the narrative, because the Russians are not particularly good at that, because they tell it like it is, and they do what they say they're going to do, and they don't have loads of comedians and actors and bullshit. They have people like Sergei Lavrov, who I'd much rather have talking, because they say what they mean. Yeah. And when it comes to geopolitics, when countries don't say what they mean, that's when you get problems. And what we've got in the UK is a bunch of clowns. Literally, this is propaganda. They're threatening people who are supportive of Russia, because there are those.
Yeah, because look at threat number 2. We are offering a clear choice: expose their actions or face jail. So that's if you know someone that might be a Russian spy, if you don't tell us who they are, we'll put you in jail.
Well, the thing is that we have UK journalists. Oh Christ!
Oh,
Kit Clarenberg comes to mind.
Yeah, there was another guy.
Not specifically Williamson. No. Anyway, the thing is that we have journalists who actually get interviewed by RT and Sputnik and some of these Russian channels, and this is kind of directed at them, because I don't know, it's just really sinister and Orwellian. And let's move on.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Hey, we must be doing something right, because we got a nasty message on the what would you call it? The other channel on the vertical feed.
Did we?
Yeah. Huh? That's the first time I think that is one of the first times we've had some, so we must be pushing buttons. You know?
Okay. Well.
Yeah, well, the message was, you two look sus as if, right? You need your hard drives checked.
What the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. From some kind of anonymous user. So I've just hidden them from the channel, so that's them banned.
And the main thing that's subversive on my computer is memes.
You can check my hard drive all you like, you know? It's full of videos that I've made. But yeah, when I say made, literally here on YouTube. Right. Breaking: Marine Le Pen has been barred from public office with immediate effect. Okay, so Marine Le Pen was found guilty of some kind of fraudulent activity, yeah? And has been barred for 5 years from running from office. She was given a 2-year suspended sentence and then a further 2 years on a tag. So she hasn't been jailed, despite what people said at the time. Given 2-year jail term, is suspended. So really, she's not going to jail. But she's been barred from running for office, and she was a favourite to win the presidency. So it does look like a blatant attempt by Macron to just remove the opposition. Having said that, I don't know, did she do it or not, you know?
Well, if you actually look into what she's alleged to have done, or what she's been convicted of doing,
yeah,
it's all to do with Europe. So the crime that she's supposed to have committed is not even against French people or French property or the French state. She was using European Union money to finance political activities in France. Now, I agree that that's not something that they should be doing, but from what I can tell, it sounds like they're all doing it. And more to the point, we have Ursula embroiled in a scandal relating to Pfizer, and we have Christine Lagarde,
who has been convicted of fraud.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like 400 odd million euros worth of fraud, and she's still I mean, and she still gets a position. What is she, governor of the Bank of Europe or whatever the hell it is? No,
Yeah, something
finance
like
minister.
that. Yeah.
Or, I don't know. I mean, she's, and it's just this hypocritical deep state bullshit. Is that if you have the right politics and you're supported by the right people, you can do whatever the hell you like and you'll get promoted upwards regardless of how much you fail, like Ursula. And if you don't, then you'll get cancelled and convicted. And it's something that I don't know, Musk, I'm not a fan, I have to say. I'm a fan of being allowed back on Twitter. And to some extent, I'm kind of a fan of Twitter actually being one of the few places in this world where we've actually got some freedom of speech within limits.
Yeah.
There's still limits, but we have more than, say, Facebook or Instagram or anywhere else. But he essentially said about, hang on a minute, I've lost my train of thought. Say something.
Don't worry about it.
No,
right.
It doesn't matter. Change slides.
Yeah,
it's not important.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make, says Macron. As he parades looking at this fine body of French manhood, he looked, I mean, did you see him doing this when he was walking around? He looked like a predator. He looked like a predator in a cookie store. You know, I'm not gonna say anymore. I'm just not.
No, he looked like Candice Owens. Absolutely bang on the money, and that's all I'm going to say about that one, because it was so it was creepy and weird. But you see Starmer doing, I mean, they're all so creepy.
Yeah, they are. But the argument is that they don't get into these positions, or they're not allowed into these positions unless there is a hold over them that can be pulled out, you know.
That was something that Peter Thiel, when he was interviewed by Joe Rogan. Yeah. One of the things that I took out of that conversation I found very interesting. And he pretty much said it openly, that in order to progress beyond a certain level in this world, you have to be compromised in some way. They have to have some sort of information that can shut you down when they want to, which in itself...
That's where we're going wrong, Ed. We don't have... We're not compromised. They don't have any compromise on us.
Well, no, fuck that. But the thing is that we've spent so many rabbit holes talking about, is there one overriding controlling force, like a committee of 300 or the black nobility or the Bilderbergs or whoever it is that is supposed to be controlling the world. Now, if you have someone like Peter Thiel, he's got more money than God, pretty much. Yeah. And he's also behind a lot of the tech stuff. I mean, Peter Thiel he's not one of those people that is completely out there like Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos or whoever, but Thiel's behind pretty much all of them. Yeah. And for him to be on Joe Rogan saying something like that, I found that fascinating on all sorts of levels. Anyway, let's move on.
Still got to go back to the Rothschilds when he was poking Prince Charles in the chest.
Well, who did Macron work for before he was president of France? Ooh, Rothschilds in France.
Yeah. But you got to go back. I mean, that image just sticks in my mind because nobody does that. Nobody pokes your future king in the chest, surely. And it wasn't a friendly poke. It was, don't fucking do that again type thing, wasn't it? It really was.
Yeah, and the Rothschilds, I mean, I don't know if the story is apocryphal or not, but supposedly at the end of the Napoleon, when the Battle of Waterloo was happening, Rothschild had spies in France, and they realized that Napoleon was done for, and they hightailed it to Dover, where Rothschild was supposedly waiting. Rothschild goes back to the stock market and starts selling gilts, leading other people to think that he knew something and that Wellington had lost, and they all started selling. And so the price of gilts went down massively. And then Rothschild, through intermediaries, bought the whole thing. And the rumor is that after the Battle of Waterloo, the Rothschilds pretty much controlled the British government.
Well, that's kind of one of the theories that Trump's on just now with the tariffs, and that he wants China. He's basically trying to bribe China into dumping all the US dollars because they've got something like $4 trillion US dollars, and he kind of wants them back without having to devalue the currency. So he wants them to really give up those dollars, probably, and then he'll take the tariffs away. And that means the American dollar still is the hegemon, and everybody gets to live comfortably and peacefully after that. I don't know.
I heard an interesting perspective on that, actually, because given what the current US administration has said and is doing relating to tariffs, and something that Marco Rubio said not long after he was confirmed as Secretary of State, one of his first interviews, he talks about the end of the unipolar world. And and you also see this. This is why Trump is interested in Greenland. It's why he's being nicer to the South Americans than anyone else with the tariffs, because he wants to establish an American pole that is essentially going to become powerful enough to not necessarily dominate the other poles, but not have to worry about places like China and Russia and things like that. And it's fascinating stuff. We certainly live in interesting times.
We do indeed. And speaking of interesting times, these are the clowns that rule Greenland at the moment, or own it. Denmark installs high benches that represent the height of where the water level will be in the year 2100. These guys are nuts, and that's not even accurate. Because it's a foot a century. A foot, that's 12 inches. So I don't know what kind of measurements they're using, but they've got it wildly wrong.
The thing is that Denmark is infected with climate zealotry.
The question that I cannot hold back, Ed, is how'd they get up there?
That's actually fake? A bloody good question.
Is this fake? This wasn't.
Kind of,
I didn't grab this on the 1st of April. It was well before it.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, I'd have to actually get Photoshop out and pull the picture out, because I can see, if you look at the legs of that bench,
it looks a bit dodgy.
And also, if you look at the water, because with Photoshop you can clone things, but you get
I see what you mean,
artifacts and stuff. So if you look at the legs, particularly the back left leg, the bend, it's too angular. If you look at the bend of that leg,
that one there that gets me. See that one there?
Yeah, it's so.
It might be fake. Anyway, right, let's move on.
Well, the thing is that, realistically speaking, you need a bloody ladder to get up there, unless those two people happen to be able to shimmy themselves up there.
Debunking live, says Brett Mate. Yep, here we go. Business Standard, right? 1 in 3 Indians lost money to scams in 2024. You know what? Tough.
Payback's a bitch.
Karma is indeed. Yeah. Tough.
And it would be really funny if it was the Nigerians ripping off the Indians.
It's more likely to be the Cambodians, is it? Is it Cambodia or is it Laos? I think it might be Laos. Chinese are running scam centers in Laos, using basically slave labor from Cambodia. In fact, I've got a whole script. I meant to do a video on it, and I haven't done it yet, but I will. Right, moving on. This man wanted by Brookhaven PD for vandalising a Tesla with wire cutters has been identified as 63-year-old Osvaldo Torres Rodriguez. Brookhaven PD says that Torres Rodriguez has an active felony warrant as an undocumented immigrant. Well, karma again is indeed a...
I'm sorry, but when
why would you?
Musk makes it, especially when Musk makes it perfectly obvious that Sentry mode is going to be switched on Teslas by default. If you're going to vandalize a car, pick an old one like mine that's not festooned with cameras. It's just,
Yeah.
but it's so ridiculous and childish, and I mean, we have a section of society that is impossible. It's impossible to have a debate with. We don't have civilized discussions anymore. You either agree with the majority, with the mob, or you get cancelled. It's nuts.
There are calls for an emergency summit in Glasgow, Scotland, or what was it the Americans say? Glasgow, Scotland, after serious sexual assault cases soar to epidemic levels. Well, I wonder what has changed in Glasgow that has caused this upsurge in sex attacks. Well, maybe it's something to do with the fact that the Glasgow Council have also said that they need a moratorium on accepting immigrants because of 6,000 houses that they have for homeless people. 4,000 of them are currently occupied by people seeking asylum, which is 3 times the amount that they're actually allowed to allocate. So they are adversely selecting people seeking asylum and against people that actually require houses to live here and are entitled to live here.
And it's also, if you look at the stats, particularly the people, which ethnic groups are being convicted of more crimes all over Europe, Sweden, the Netherlands, Britain, everywhere.
Yes, but that you can't mention that, Ned.
No, we can't. That's why I'm being very careful with the words that I choose.
Very, very careful. Very careful.
But I don't agree with everything that Rupert Lowe says. In fact, with some things he says, I vehemently disagree with him. I'd still vote for him.
Would you?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, simply because he actually, I respect that he wants to do the best for the country.
Yeah,
and he wants to have a debate, and he's open to discuss things. And so, if you disagree with someone, and they're open to have a conversation about it, and they express themselves, and you express yourself, then you've got at least a modicum of hope that you're going to get to some sort of consensus or agreement or whatever it is. But just to have some integrity.
Well, that's a good thing. I mean, that's a good point, Ed, because I was thinking about this, and it's like, today people are pulling things out of social media that people said 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe even longer, 20 years ago in some cases, and saying, well, you said that then, so you can't say this now. And it's like, why can't you change your mind? Because as you get more information and as you take things in, you should be able to make reasoned choices and proper deliberations on things. And if evidence appears that makes you think, well, okay, I was wrong, I've now changed my stance on that. What's wrong with that? Because as someone really fucking smarter than me and more famous said, if you can't change your mind, you can't change anything.
Absolutely. And yes, I agree with you 100%. I think that I don't particularly want to live in a society where we're all.
Could you scoot slightly to your left? Just slightly.
My left.
No, your left. No, you're right. You're right. That's it. Sorry.
Am I right?
Yeah, that's it. That's fine. That's fine. You were just sliding off the screen.
Sorry. That'd be the wine.
Right, sorry. You don't want to live in a society.
You have to be able to. The thing is that we all make mistakes. And
we do.
When I look at the views that I had 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I wouldn't like to be held to things that I said then.
Hell no. Yeah.
In all cases, I mean, in some cases, I still agree with my younger self.
Yeah.
And in other cases, my opinions have matured and my views have changed and experience has changed. But we all have to be free to change our minds. We all have to be allowed to be wrong. And we all have to be allowed to have a voice. It's that old expression, if you don't believe in freedom of speech for people that you detest, then you don't believe in it at all.
Exactly.
And if you start suppressing speech, then people feel like they don't have a voice, which is when the crazy shit starts.
And speaking of crazy shit, Ed, right? Convicted Syrian terrorist allowed to stay in UK after police back asylum claim. Okay, fair enough. Counter-terror officer testified that refugee had not been involved in any further incidents or crimes and had a clean and tidy house.
Well,
If only I knew that cleanliness of the house was indicative of guilt or otherwise. Good grief, imagine the crimes one could have solved if one had gone, well, this is a very dirty house you live in. You must be guilty of crime.
but it's also testament to the whole rabbit hole of UK support for these extremist wankers.
And remember, this guy is a convicted,
people like Giuliani and
convicted terrorist. Convicted terrorist.
Yeah, people, I mean, they shouldn't, having a clean house next to being a convicted terrorist. Ugh. Which would I choose? Come on, let's move on or I'm going to start ranting again.
Yeah, okay. Germany decides to leave history in the past and prepare for war. This is what you were on about earlier.
That's just
the worst headline ever.
And then it's do people, I mean, this is not a good look. Germany rearming is, I'm sorry. Have we forgotten history? Has there been I don't know, is there some sort of Mandela effect or something? But what's more hilarious about this is the story that we covered last week, which is Germany blowing up one of their coal-fired power stations.
Yes.
So they're being just as stupidly net zero. Look,
the most modern one in the world.
I'm not sure who needs to hear this, but net zero and war are not compatible.
Speaking of incompatibilities, right? Now, I mean, I might upset some people with this next one, right? Because I didn't hold back. I was going to, and then I thought, no, this is just stupidity on display. Right, so the final, and this is tragic. Don't get me wrong. Any death is tragic, right? So just to put you in the picture, 4 American servicemen died in a heavy vehicle. It wasn't quite a tank, but it was a heavy vehicle. It weighed 60 tons in a swamp in Lithuania during a training exercise. And effectively, they drove into the swamp, and 3 of them drowned in the vehicle, and 1 of them got out, I think, but drowned in the swamp. Now, they went past a sign that said, no tanks. Right? It's a military training area. It was completely, on a base, basically. They had no reason to drive into that area. So, as I said in my tweet, because apparently over 1,000 Lithuanians and the army and everything honoured the 4 American soldiers who tragically lost their lives. And don't get me wrong, if you're an American, yes, it's a tragedy. They lost their lives. But on this channel, we do not applaud stupidity, right? And I'm sorry, but if you drive through a no tanks sign into a swamp in a 60-ton vehicle, that's a pretty stupid thing to do. And as I said, I was going to hold back, but this is what happens when everybody at school in the running races gets a prize, whether you came first or last. This is Darwinism in action. That's exactly what this is.
It's also, yeah, I mean, there's so many different aspects to that particular story. I mean, how the hell do these people think they're going to handle the Rasputitsa if they decide to go into Ukraine? I mean, it's just no. And if we think that this particular, well, exactly. And
right.
If we think that level of competence is ready for war, then we're going to get our asses kicked.
Right, let's be honest. After Vietnam, America hasn't been involved in a war in any real sense in an area that isn't a desert.
Let's say they haven't. No one in the West has fought a peer adversary since World War II.
Well, they haven't. And in most cases, any action they've seen has been in a desert type area like Afghanistan or Iraq or the Gulf or whatever. Most of their activity has been in that kind of area. Anything they did in Europe was nearly always done from the air.
Mm-hmm.
So that really doesn't count. So they would be.
Well,
put them in Europe and they're going to struggle.
The thing is that the other problem that we've got is that after 3 years of war in Ukraine, the Russian military, calling them a peer adversary with the United States is a bit of an insult to the Russians, actually, because they've got they've got vast numbers of battle-hardened troops. They've been developing technology like drones at a rate of knots to the point where we can't compete with Russian drones. And their factories are now ramping up production. And, well, they were ramping up production 6 months ago, and that's now kicked in. So, yeah, it's insane. And we've got American troops that can't redesign.
Yeah. Switch over to your right again. That's good if you can hold it there.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm a fidget arse.
Move the chair slightly so as you when you do fit. That's better.
Okay.
Right, climate change may make it harder to spot submarines. The sound of their engines will not travel as far. Is this like father? Is this like this is like a comedy show, isn't it?
It's
really
well, we do try and make people laugh.
And again, this wasn't picked up on April Fools. This was before the 1st of April. This was published.
This is the problem with April Fools in the 2020s. How the hell? Look, how do you tell the difference between April Fools and any other day of the year?
You can't, mate.
No, there is actually one difference. Is that on April Fools, the difference is that April Fools is the one day that people are actually investigating what's behind the news.
Yeah, well, that's true.
That's true.
Right. US strikes in Yemen are burning through munitions with limited success. So apparently the US, this is one of yours, US is burning through its munitions in Yemen, leaving it without precision weapons to confront China. The US has already emptied much of its weapons stockpiles after 3 years of proxy war against Russia, and now US needs antimony, which is a rare earth metal that's it hardens alloys, so it's really, really useful for making bullets and artillery shells. So US needs antimony and other rare earth metals from China to rearm to fight China and Russia. Yeah, well, I mean, the two main sources of antimony in the world are, I believe, China and Russia. Yeah. Awkward.
It's barking mad. It's literally, you couldn't. And the Chinese, I've heard before we came on that as retaliation for Trump's tariffs against China, they're not imposing tariffs, they're just restricting rare earths.
No more takeout for you.
And I can't say I blame them, honestly. I mean, it's Xi Jinping is probably sitting there going, bring it on, bitch.
Yeah, so this story broke earlier this week that there was a huge mosque being built in the Lake District, which has something like 0.4% Islam, what would you call citizens, right? Or whatever. Yeah, Muslims. Islamic. Yeah, Muslims or whatever.
People who pray in mosques are called Muslims.
Yeah, okay, right. So it's something like 0.4%. So they're building this huge mosque for them. And now apparently people are just deciding, oh no, we don't want this. And 0.3% says Britmate. I sit corrected, and I bow to your superior knowledge, sir. So there you go. The suppliers have decided, well, we're not supplying you. So I believe everything's grinding slowly to a halt. Speaking,
And I think it's the most effective form of protest.
yeah, I think
Ultimately,
it is.
people, and I believe in freedom, and I believe that people in a community are allowed to decide what happens
Well,
within that community
it's
in broad
democracy.
terms. Precisely,
Yeah.
and so it's a form of very effective protest
Mhm.
against something that seems ill-conceived at best and rabbit-holey at worst.
Yeah. Oh,
And it's
seems to have
again, it's one
sunk.
of those hypersensitive subjects that we have to be really careful with.
Yes, we do, unfortunately, but not to worry.
And it's, I mean, it's just the state of the world.
It has indeed.
I mean,
Right.
we could, to be honest, we have a small dedicated audience. We could end up on Rumble and just say what we like.
Yeah, but I'm trying to build the channel, and Rumble's just too slow. I mean, regardless, it's like everything, you know. You want to be heard, you got to be on the place where everybody is, and everybody's on YouTube. You know, I mean, there's no point in me going on Twitter. No point in me going on TikTok because we're too old. People like us don't do TikTok.
I don't even have TikTok on my bloody phone.
And neither do I, mate. I'm not interested in TikTok at all.
Someone posted on Twitter, one of the people I follow, a lady, I think, said that if you're older than 25 and you're sending me your Snapchat, then I'm automatically not interested. And I didn't reply because I'm far too old to get into a conversation like that. But I was actually thinking that if you're older than 25 and you even understand Snapchat, then we have problems.
Yeah, Snapchat's something my daughter does, and I don't.
I don't want to get it. Let's move on.
I don't even get fucking Instagram, to be honest. I just don't get Instagram. I don't understand how it's meant to work because, you know, all the kids around here use it. Like the guys that run the garage across the way, they use Instagram to message each other and things like that. And I'm thinking, why? But why? You know, what's wrong with WhatsApp? You know, or something like that.
Instagram is if you're a guy generally, and you log on, you create an Instagram account and you go on there. The first thing that you're presented with is vast amounts of punani. So,
these are young boys. Yeah,
no, they're young lads, and they're messaging each other on Instagram because their feeds just probably tits and arse. Nothing but.
Got you now, mate. Got you now. Yeah. Okay, so this was yours. Panic in the Middle East. In recent hours, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Jordan, and other countries in the region, including Saudi Arabia, I believe. And Saudi Arabia is a big one because Saudi Arabia is, you know, the friend of the US, isn't it? Have called the Iranian president to assure him that they will not let America use their soil against Iran. And in fact, there's the Saudi Arabian guy there. Is that not MBS there?
Yeah, no, that's Mohammed bin Sultan.
Yeah,
no, Salman. Oh,
MBS,
let's just call him that.
He's a very dubious character. Very dubious. He is. I've done a bit of a dive into him. Well, I'll rephrase that.
The thing is,
I've done some research into him, and he's not what he purports to be.
Well, without disappearing down a rabbit hole, the whole House of Saud, was created by the British, and it was created essentially to rule the Middle East. And yes, this one is. But the thing that's significant about this is literally even just Kuwait and Saudi Arabia between them have vast amounts of US hardware, airplanes. Those guys saying that is kind of, put it this way, it makes the US ability to threaten Iran more complicated. And I'm not saying that they can't still do it, but if Trump does decide to follow his boss, Bibi Netanyahu, who has wanted a war against Iran for about 30 or 40 years, if not more, it would be just a mistake of the most gigantic proportions that they can't. I don't think your average American can even contemplate just how bad that would be for everybody. I mean, forget Ukraine. This is, for me, the part of the world that I think is more of a flashpoint now than Ukraine is the Middle East.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, mate. Right, moving on. US airstrikes destroy water source for 50,000 Yemenis. Now, have you... I hadn't really paid a lot of attention to Yemen, right? Because I know it sits at the bottom of Saudi Arabia, and really I don't give a shit. Okay, I'll be honest, I've never really given a shit about Yemen. I just know that America's been bombing it for 10 years with the assistance of... or Saudi Arabia's been bombing it for 10 years with the assistance of the US, and all they've done is made glass and not really made any difference. But I had a look at Yemen, and it's quite a fascinating country. It seems to have quite a depth of history.
It's got a. I'm in the same boat as you on this one, because I didn't really know anything about Yemen at all.
Yeah.
I know, apart from the fact that the poor bastards have been getting bombed for 20 odd years. But like you said, it's they call it. It's supposedly,
they call it the Manhattan of the something like the Manhattan of the
Middle East.
Yeah, because they built all these brick. No, they're not brick. They're mud brick. They built all these mud brick skyscrapers, basically, because because they've got so little fertile land. When they build all their dwellings up rather than use any of the fertile land, so they've more land to grow stuff on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's quite fascinating. I was quite impressed, and you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's also from a religious perspective. It's supposedly they're I don't know what the word. I was listening to a podcast about it, and it's they're the original Muslims. That even the Muhammad, the Prophet, peace be upon him. That's being in Egypt. Because if you're in Egypt and you say something like that, you have to conclude it properly.
You're not in Egypt now, mate.
I'm being respectful across cultures. Thank you very much.
Okay. I just don't abide by cults, so that's my status.
No, the thing is that I spend time in Egypt.
No, I know you do, and I'm not mocking you for it. I'm just laughing. Because I found
you're a Scotsman, you're allowed to laugh.
I found it in Congress.
That's totally fine.
I found it in Congress, that was all.
It kind of is, because I don't really do religion.
Yeah, you don't.
Just being respectful is important. In that particular case, I would be the same about Buddha. I mean...
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
no,
let's not start talking about religion.
I'm not knocking you for it. I'm not knocking you for it. It's just in the context that I was taken by surprise.
Just going based on the story, destroying a water source for 50,000 people is really not a nice thing to do.
Well, is that not like some kind of collective punishment? Because that'll be affecting civilians, so effectively is a war crime?
Yes, it's absolutely a war crime. It's also, technically speaking, is a violation of the US Constitution, because it's an act of war against a sovereign state, and the only entity in the United States that can declare war is Congress. Not that Congress, I mean, it would probably just be a formality, but we're talking technicals. But just on a human level, I mean, it's the Saudis were at war with, look, they've been bombing them for 20 bloody years. And the Yemenis are now able to attack aircraft carriers. So it's not working. How about trying something different?
No,
and also, the reason that the Ansar Allah has closed the Red Sea is because of a certain thing happening at the top of the Red Sea in a certain Middle Eastern country that we just seem to get nailed on YouTube for talking about.
Yeah.
And they're the only ones doing anything.
Yeah, no, they are. They're the only ones seems to be. Well, they really are taking action, and and sticking by their standards, which is
And if you look at
fine.
international conventions regarding what the ICC says is happening in said Middle Eastern country, actually, technically speaking, if you're a country and you're aware that this is going on under international law and you don't actively try and prevent it, then you're complicit in it.
So apparently Hungary has withdrawn from the ICC.
Oh, I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed in Orban.
What did you expect?
Well, I just
Really?
his whole no, because I don't really know him. I mean, I've never. I don't know a huge amount about Hungary, but you see these people and they say things. These politicians, and they'll say one thing, and you kind of think, yeah, no, he's talking a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And they'll do something else, and you just think, what the fuck?
Right,
That's
moving on, mate. Because
Yeah,
we're
let's
only
move
on slide 25, and it's now
Bloody hell.
10:30. Right, the truth behind why Turkish barbershops are used by criminal gangs for money laundering as police launch probe into boom on Britain's. Holy shit! By Jove, they've cracked it. I mean, it's only been like 3 years of us saying, I mean, I'm fed up. The amount of times I've posted on Twitter a washing machine full of money when people go, what's with all the Turkish laundries? The Turkish barbers. There's like, in the town here, there must be like 6 of them. And they're always empty.
There's the dessert shops as well. We have at least 3 dessert shops near me, and anytime you walk past them, they're never more than a third full. Mm-hmm. And they are swanking. Literally, I mean, the amount of money that they must have spent doing the place up is insane. And it's, there's something going on, but it's so sad because the normal high street is dying.
Yeah.
And we have all of this dodgy stuff, vape shops and Turkish barbers and...
You know why the normal high street is dying, mate? Because 1, the councils are screwing everybody for rent and rates, right? 2, the government are screwing everybody for tax and everything else that goes with running a business. And then 3, the government have the fucking audacity, absolute audacity, to turn around and say, we're giving 1.9 million people a pay rise by upping the minimum wage. No, you fucking aren't. What you've done is you have forced small businesses in particular, right, to pay their staff more at their own expense and the incumbent things that go along with it. Not only do you have to pay them more, you have to pay their fucking pensions, you have to pay their national insurance contributions. You're putting small businesses out of business. That's why the high street is the shitty state it's in right now, because the government are doing fuck all to help business in this country. End rant.
No, that's good. That's a good rant. No, that's a good rant. And it didn't go off too long, which is always nice too. But I would just, because I'm just as bad. I pot, kettle and black. But I would just like to add my weight of opinion to what you just said. Absolutely. Let's move on.
Yep. Thank you. Cheeseburgers are racist.
God.
Bacon cheeseburgers are prime white man's food because those people in the Middle East that we can't speak about can't eat bacon. Muslims can't eat bacon. Indians can't eat beef. Other non-whites will probably get sick from cheese due to lactose intolerance. There you go. Perfect white man's food. Bacon cheeseburger.
I'm so glad I'm a white man right
so
now.
Racist. Right.
I love it. The good cheeseburger is a thing of beauty.
You're right.
And
although I do like a lamb burger occasionally.
The thing is that we should be allowed to eat what we want to eat according to our cultural specifications in our own country.
Yeah.
Now, I will admit that every time I go to Egypt and I go... my diving instructor and her boyfriend, she's Austrian and he's Swiss.
Oh,
and
Swiss.
They live in Egypt. So every time I go over there...
He doesn't drive, does he?
No, neither of them drive.
Swiss drive like fucking maniacs. They are
I would imagine that
maniacs.
if you put my friend, because he's Swiss German, so if you put him in a car, he probably would.
Oh, but
But he's the most amazing technical diver you'll ever meet.
the Germans are fine, right? The Germans will drive fast, but you go along the autobahn, you'll maybe doing 110 mile an hour or something. You'll look behind you and there's lights coming, and then you'll glance in the mirror 2 seconds later, and the lights are on your fucking bumper, right? And that's a German, right? He's just there. And they'll wait until you move over, because everybody has to move over in Germany. If you don't, you get a ticket. So you move over as soon as you can, and away he goes. No hassle, no flashing lights, no sounding horns. But you're going along the Autobahn, you're doing 110 mile an hour, and there's a fucking car between you and the crash bar trying to get by you. That's a Swiss. That's a fucking Swiss.
Right, just to finish the story off.
Yeah.
Whenever I go to Egypt, I take bratwurst, bacon, usually some ham.
Oh, for the Austrians.
Gammon steaks, yeah, for the diving instructor.
For the diving, you give your bratwurst to the driving instructor's girlfriend.
No, no, I absolutely don't. I specifically hand it over to him.
Oh, right, okay. I'm only winding up, mate. Right, moving on. Genetically engineered cat girls are possible, scientists say, but we lack funding. Why are these people not being funded? This is the kind of science that we want. This is what we were promised growing up. All those cartoons and comics told us this was going to happen.
Have you seen Musk's tweet? Optimus will come in many forms. So we're talking about robot cat girls.
No,
how could this possibly not go wrong?
Yeah, that's just Musk being Musk. I'm actually more impressed.
Schwarzenegger version of Optimus.
I'm more impressed with the genetically engineered cat girls. That's what I want. Or do I? I don't know.
Here's a scary thought.
Yeah. What?
Arnold Schwarzenegger sells his before he dies, in order to fund his family, he sells his likeness to Elon Musk, who can then replicate it on the Optimus, and suddenly we have loads of Arnold Schwarzeneggers running around. Let's move on.
The bananas have stopped appearing.
What?
Do you remember the bananas?
No.
So a plate of bananas used to appear on this road every day. They have ceased to appear. The bananas have ceased.
Well,
there you go.
I would just like to say, whichever Beatles fan has been doing that for however long, rest in peace.
Indeed. Right, what about this? What's this? Schools to give boys anti-misogyny lessons to stop toxic masculinity in the wake of Netflix hit Adolescence. What? This? I'm speechless.
Is a whole show. This one is a whole show on its own.
Yeah,
because the whole, and it's not just the actual content of the series, but the way it's been relentlessly pushed by the media, the way that the Prime Minister is trying to make out like it's a documentary when it's actually fictional, and the ethnic origin of the main protagonist is completely opposite to what is portrayed in the series compared to what the actual story was about. And the fact that young working class white men and boys are actually some of the most discriminated against in society, generally speaking, if you look at the education system and everything else. And also you contrast this with all of the war drums, where on the one hand they're trying to tell white boys and men that they are the problem and they're misogynistic potential rapists, and on the other hand they see stories of immigrants being involved in such things, and then the next thing you know, the government says, "Oh, join the army, fight for gun, die in Ukraine."
Yeah, you're right. It's too late in the night to carry on into this, so I'm just going to crack on, mate. Crack on.
Move on.
Right, Kaka has been awarded the Henry A. Kissinger Prize. I can't say it anymore.
This one's just, Henry Kissinger must be turning in his grave because she is so. I mean, I didn't like Kissinger. I thought he was a freaking demon.
He wasn't daft.
But in terms of being an international statesman, you have to give him his due.
Yeah.
And he might have been a crafty, two-faced nightmare, but he was bloody good at what he did. And Kaya Kallas is not. She's comparing it to Henry Kissinger is a freaking insult.
As anyway, this is Ed Davey on a hobby horse. What is it with hobby horses? This was pre-camp. This was his campaign tricks. This guy was this was a video, and I'm telling you, he looked like he had cerebral palsy when he was doing this.
In the world of not having respect for politicians, it's just. I can't. I mean, you look at the caliber of the political class in this country, and there is pretty much one man, Rupert Lowe, who stands out as just having any kind of integrity or sense or decency or anything else. I mean, I can't literally off the top of my head, I cannot think of anyone else in that entire nest of vipers that I mean. Okay, maybe Jeremy Corbyn, he's still in Parliament. Okay, right, I've got some respect for him on the other side of the house.
This is a cracker. RFK Jr. has cut Alzheimer's research, right? Chrissy Mayer, what's the big deal? They won't remember anyway.
Alzheimer's is another rabbit hole we just get ourselves into trouble with. But if you're listening, just do a research on Christopher Exley.
Now, if you talking about getting into trouble, watch this one. First pick of toddler accused of trans homophobia released. Did you read that? Did you read that one about the kid that get kicked out of nursery for correctly pointing out that someone was not the gender that they pretended to be? You can't do that. That's fucking ridiculous. It's a kid. It's not even 5. It's not at school. And you're kicking it out of nursery because it goes, that's a girl. Well, that's unbelievable.
The teacher in the class and the head teacher of the school should both be sacked.
The whole thing's nuts, mate. Nuts. Speaking of nuts... Never judge people by the colour of their skin, except for this absolute fucking what's it? That's nearly as bad as a mushroom forager's mop.
Oh dear! There's that meme of with J.D. Vance and Trump in the White House, and J.D. Vance has got one of those makeup brushes. And he's got a bag of Watsits and he's brushing the orange onto the Donald.
Strange you should mention memes because I think you might get into bother if you keep going the way you're going. UK and US language differences. Well, it's meant to be differences, but I didn't write it. Fries, chips, airplane, aeroplane, subway, underground, memes, 2 years in jail.
To be honest, my muse has actually gone into hiding somewhere.
You have a muse?
I haven't produced. I've done a few Flanders recently, but I haven't really been very active on the meme front.
Zelensky?
No, my muse is insane. It's like my muse is the
not Maria's
version of me.
It's not,
and I don't know. This is the climate that we live in at the moment.
Yeah.
Because if you can get, what is it, Lucy got? Like, how many months was she sentenced to?
2.5 years, yeah.
And just on a little side note, because she's actually not having a particularly good time. I've just heard this evening from a friend.
I guess that.
And supposedly, this just... prison sounds bloody stressful. I don't want to start divulging things that I've been told in confidence, but she doesn't sound like she's having a particularly good time. And she posted something stupid. Yes, it was up for 2 hours. and she got mass reported by some of the worst people online that you could possibly hope to
You know
ever
what,
meet.
mate? I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this quite bluntly. She didn't post anything stupid. She posted an opinion. That's all she did, right?
Yeah.
She didn't ask anyone to do anything. She just posted an opinion. She didn't say that people should go out and do anything. She didn't encourage anything. She didn't incite anything. She posted an opinion.
She was angry, and you're
Well,
right.
yeah.
I only say it was
but she
stupid
didn't.
in the context of the times that we live in.
Well, but one wouldn't have thought it would be stupid at that time.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. And the problem is, these people that pled guilty, and through no fault of their own, because I'm sure they were horribly coerced into doing so, right? Those people that pled guilty have really suffered for the whim of the government, for the whim of Starmer, just to stamp his authority on things. That's all that was, because the people that pled not guilty have all got off with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can only imagine the kind of pressure that they put them under.
Yeah.
And yeah, my heart goes out to them. And Lucy and I were mutual followers on Twitter, and I mean, you see people's stuff come through and you like it, and then Twitter gives you more of it.
Yeah.
So you end up, you don't know the person, but you, particularly with some people like her, where she was fairly expressive about what was happening in her life. So you learn a bit about kids and stuff, and you just think, this is not a person that deserves to be in prison for
nobody deserves to be in prison for posting their opinion. That's
exactly
the thing.
Yeah. So yeah, good meme. Let's move on.
Yeah. Girls that like me. Maria replies, "Who the fuck said I like you?" That was very good one.
Yeah, no, that was funny. I've seen a few different variations of that, and they're always funny.
She looks like a human blobfish.
Yeah, but the thing is that having been in a relationship with one of the sexy ones who turned out to be crazy, there's a video that I saw that was completely
the guy that is explaining how women have this. Yeah.
You have the unicorn, where they're crazy and they're not crazy, and they're maximum pretty. Yeah,
my wife says she's a unicorn, right? But she's not. She's not. She's in the fucking crazy zone. I'm telling you.
Let's not be too harsh on Maria, and that one on the left, that looks like a proper bunch of hard work.
There's another meme for you, mate. That's quite straightforward.
I would actually object to that one, because fannies are both fun
and
useful and it's nice to be around. And Sadiq Khan is none of those things.
Right. Hey, can you see it? Can you see it? Can you see it?
Yeah. And I have a suspicion that it may just have been done deliberately. Or at least the workman. I mean, can you imagine? Okay, so maybe it wasn't done deliberately. And the workmen who actually installed that, maybe they were the ones that took the picture of it.
They could, they did it deliberately, because they could have done it at the top. Because those two bits at the top will be anchored as well.
That's true. Yeah.
That's true.
So appropriate.
Right. Speaking of strange things, this Chinese company, right, redid its containers, and its sales jumped by, a factor of 3.
I'm not surprised. I'm pretty sure I can guess the demographic that the increase was largest in. I mean,
it's just shower and bath gel or whatever, wash gel. But their sales jumped massively after they re-engineered their containers. Imagine that.
I'm actually really surprised I haven't seen those on the shelves of supermarkets in Brighton. Someone's missing a marketing thing.
Yeah, here's a good one. And it makes you think, doesn't it?
What? Every race on earth has a third world country except white people. Have you been to the UK recently?
Yeah, I know, but technically we're not a third world country. We have running water. You can drink it still. You know, we have energy.
Barely.
Yeah, but we're not
I don't recommend drinking tap water in the southeast.
we're not a third world country yet. We're way to go.
Have you seen the roads? I
Oh,
don't
the
know what your
roads
roads
are
like,
bad.
but
The roads are bad. I'll give you that. Right. Breaking news. Scientists have found that hearing an opposing viewpoint does no actual harm. That's probably accurate.
you would to you and me, this is just obvious. To everyone watching, this is probably obvious. But there seems to be a large section of the population for whom it's not obvious.
Mm.
And they
Indeed,
also
there does.
happen to be the ones that are making life miserable for the rest of us.
Indeed. Waterloo, please. Oh, the station, says the taxi driver. Well, I'm a bit fucking late for the battle.
Oh, dear.
What other Waterloo is there in London? I mean, really, if you went up to a taxi and asked for Waterloo, would he say the station, or would he just assume that you meant the station?
Well, he's a taxi driver. You would think that it would be a safe assumption, but this I'm going to have to file this one away in things that never happened, because I cannot imagine a self-respecting London taxi driver responding in that way.
People in the comments are going on about the quality of the water, and the thing is, I forget that where we live, or where I live, water's a completely different ballgame from down south. Your water is foul. Your tap water.
I distill it,
Yeah.
and then I filter it after I've distilled it, and then I have to remineralize it with Cornish sea salt afterwards. God. It's a bloody pain in the arse.
So I mean, I don't drink tap water just anyway, because I put it through. I've got one of those British Berkfields. But having said that, our water here, you never need to descale anything, because there's no lime in the water. There's no calcium in the water.
You don't even want to see
I know
what's left in my distiller after I've done it.
Our washing machines will last for 20 years.
Mm.
You know, our kettles don't break. They just keep working, because there is nothing to descale. And people, you know, the dishwashers and things, they come with a descaling tablet, and we just throw them away, because the water doesn't have any of those chemicals on it.
I don't have a dishwasher, but I have to descale my washing machine. I do it once a month.
And the water tastes.
It's foul. You know, I wouldn't.
The water here tastes fine. It tastes fine.
I'm sure
you can drink it.
When last time I was in Egypt, the German couple that I was kind of got friendly with at the hotel, they were commenting on how the Egyptian tap water really smelled of chlorine. Well, and I didn't even notice it. I said to them, I said, if you come to the UK, don't drink tap water, because it's much worse, and particularly after it rains. It's disgusting.
You've got to,
no.
You can't say that about Scotland, to be fair. So you really need to say England. If you come to England, don't drink.
I'm sorry, England. Okay, yeah, no, fair point. No, fair point. Next slide.
Right. Did you see this one about the WhatsApp messages that got leaked to the journalist? Did you see that one? Yeah, that's quite a good meme. That fills that in quite nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, that whole, again, that we could spend an hour just talking about that particular pilot crazy. And there's so many questions. I mean, there's a rabbit hole in there, and it's just not. I don't know. But then you also have to think that the powers that be and the deep state are doing absolutely every single thing that they can think of to try and discredit Trump. Because during his first term, they had the whole Russiagate and they had the media under control. It goes back to what I was saying at the start of the show, where it seems to be that the Trump administration is they're moving their own narrative so quickly that the other side, they're not giving the other side chance to catch up. And so the other side is pulling crazy shit like Big Bird out of their hats.
Yeah. Right. The next slide's only going to appeal to a certain demographic.
God.
You're going to have to be old. I mean, there's no other way to say it. You're going to have to be old. You're going to have to be old to recognize this, I think. You know, you're getting old when Dennis the Menace and Nasher are all grown up. You get it.
Oh, yeah. The Beano.
Yeah.
My grandmother, even when we lived in Africa, my grandmother, bless her heart, she used to send my brother a copy of the Beano and me a copy of the Eagle with that weird, creepy green alien Martian guy whose name I can't remember.
The Mekong.
But
2000
yeah,
AD.
that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. Judge Dredd.
Yeah, so we used to get those regularly.
Yeah. I was really, really lucky because you won't know. It was a comic called The Beano, Tiana. So you'll never pick that up. My mum worked for John Menzies, who's the newspaper and magazine wholesaler. And she worked in the office, and every Thursday she came home with a copy of every single comic for us. Every single comic. We had every comic. We spent the next 3 days reading comics. It was fucking glorious.
I remember because my gran used to, because it was Africa, so she'd roll them up really tight into this thing. And then my brother would read his and I would read mine, and then we'd swap. And then it would depend on whether there was a particularly good story in the Eagle or something particularly funny in the Beano, and it would hang around. But what was really fun is that when we used to come back to the UK to see my grandparents for holidays, my granny would take us into WH Smith's, and I actually used to get a flat copy of the magazine rather than having this rolled up thing because by the time it's been sent from...
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Right, we've only 2 left, mate, so here we go. Back in my day, dads had 3 to 4 kids. Nowadays, kids have 3 to 4 dads.
Climate it's that's again, I just this whole the whole blurring of the lines between men and women is easily one of the most insane things that our idiotic little species has ever done.
Exactly. And finishing us off tonight, we have... I'd give you this thought. Rather be a wolf that everyone hates, not a donkey that everyone rides.
That is just such good advice.
Wisdom
for a
from
father
the ages.
to give his son.
Yeah, wisdom.
Another
from
piece
the
of
ages.
advice would be never start a fight, but always finish it.
Yeah. And there you go. I think that's enough because that's 2 hours, mate. Almost exactly.
Given how we started, I think we managed to pick the pace up, and not because I was thinking, shit, we're going to be here at midnight.
Yeah, no, I think we're okay, and I think as they say, it's been what would you say? It's been great for you.